Good evening, everyone. We'll be getting started in a few minutes. We're just waiting on a few more members to join. So I'll update you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. We're waiting for one more member to join by Zoom. He should be jumping on
Of the package.
in just a few minutes.
Anyway,
Go ahead and get started.
that,
So much for your patience.
I would have got the rental car if I had.
Kind of bear with me. Members of the public, there will be an opportunity to make public comments at the beginning of the meeting and at the end of the meeting. Now, these are public comments, informational, and there will be opportunities with whatever review with you. You may have the opportunity to ask some questions. So at this point, I'd like to call the meeting to order. And can we do a roll call, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Member Fuji Strickler, absent at this time. Member Schwarzer, absent at this time. Fisher,
Here.
Hinman,
Here.
Keats,
Here.
Langdon, absent at this time. Shin,
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you do have a quorum of the Ward Two Neighborhood Advisory Board.
Let's rock and roll. Okay, this is public the period for the public comments. It's for either public comment on any action item on for any general public comment is limited to no more than 3 minutes for each commentator. And again, we're doing this at the beginning. If you have questions regarding specific projects or something, you may want to wait till that comes up to get information or whatever it is. So if somebody has specific comments they'd like to make at this time, members of the public, this would be a good time to do it.
Mr. Chair, our first item today is public comment. Members of the public may hear, observe, and provide public comment virtually by registering through the following link, which can be found on reno.gov/meetings. And unfortunately, I do have to read the meeting Zoom link, so bear with me for just a second. https://reno.gov/48x_V_P_LZ. Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the NAB's agenda. We will not take action upon any matter not agendized on today's agenda. When you're called on for public comment, please state your name for the record and begin speaking, and you'll have 3 minutes. Mr. Chair, we do have one person who's registered for opening public comment. We'll start with Kelly Hyatt. Perfect. Go ahead, Kelly. You can stay there if you want to come up. That would be.
The mic is up here and.
Yeah.
And plus then they can see you. That's the camera for the Zoom. Okay.
Hi. Hello. Thanks for having me. I am here to speak about the fencing project for the Virginia Range horses. I will go try to get as slow as possible. I've been involved in the horses for 10 years. I've done lots of different things, doing the birth control, the full rescue. I'm one of the annoying people that moves the horses off the roads that people don't like. Okay, so I could slow down a little bit.
Yes.
A long time ago, the Hidden Valley Homeowners Association got together and they built a fence behind their houses to keep the horses from coming onto Pembroke. That was done by the homeowners association, and that was really good. In the meanwhile, there are all kinds of old fences, old range fences, development fences, things like that, that run continuing on from Hidden Valley down towards Alexander Lake Road, continuing on downtown the gun club. And all of that fencing is old, full of holes, full of breaks. It doesn't work. It needs to be replaced or replaced or repaired, which is, I'm very grateful that, you know, the city of Reno does have some money to do that now. And I really do implore you to really work hard at it. And I know you have been, and I thank Naomi and Tracy and Deanna for the hard work that they're doing. The only thing that has been constant in the past 10 years that I've been involved with the wild horses is everyone agrees we've got to have the fence. So the Wild Horse Connection, who I work with, has been really, really good at keeping the horses off the road. For the last few years, we've had some really good feed stations that have been used for a very long time. Unfortunately, this year, the two main feed stations that were keeping several hundred horses from going down Geiger Grade were not being able to be renewed, and that's for a number of different reasons out of anyone's control. It's unfortunate, but it caused many or several horses to come down into the streets, coming down from Toll Road, crossing across Geiger, going into Curry Ranch, getting as far as R.C. Willie and onto Carrot Avenue, and resulted in the deaths of 7 horses from Thanksgiving until Christmas. During that same time zone, time frame, we were, Wild Horse Connection reached out for volunteers. We've always been a very small organization. We have able to get a bunch of more volunteers that have come out, and they are doing a fantastic job moving horses off the road. Many of them have never been around a horse. They're afraid of horses, but they're out there getting these horses off the road because we care about public safety. We do not want people dying on the roads. We don't want our horses dying. And every time there is an accident, of course, we're upset that a horse dies, but our main goal is to keep the public safe. The only way to keep the public safe now is the fence. The Virginia Range is 330,000 acres, give or take a few. There are fences from Reno to Fernley, from Fernley to Silver Springs, from Silver Springs back to Carson City, and from Carson City to Washoe Valley. One of the only places that is open is our area, our Reno area. The worst part is where I live, Toll Road and Geiger Grade, and that is the most important. Again, the 10 years that I've been doing this, we have asked for the same fence that we've asked for 10 years. It's the same one. This little program right here, the proposal that Tracy and Deanna have put up is great. It goes to Geiger.
I'm gonna interrupt you because we've got 3 minutes.
Okay.
And we're gonna come up with this. The board members in fact have some of these maps, so I invite you to add more comments later, but I need to, just stop for the
In
moment.
other words, we're gonna have a whole agenda item on this, so you can speak again.
Okay,
You'll have another 3
But thank
minutes.
you for the information.
I'm glad. Okay, thank
And
you.
we're so glad that you're here. And I'd like to make sure I get a whole, that you and I speak later.
Okay, I'll stick around.
Yeah, or I'm gonna call you.
Yeah, you know how to get a hold
I
of me.
do.
Oh, great. Any other public comments?
We don't have anyone else who's registered to give opening public comment in person. Is there anyone else in the room who'd like to give public comment under this item? Seeing none, is there anyone on Zoom? Oh, go ahead.
I just have a question.
Please start by,
Can you,
before you start by stating your name for the record, please?
Madam Chair,
Perfect.
the question is simply, when you have a topic that's we're all really interested in and all want to learn much more about than we just heard, and we don't want to force the speaker who's well prepared to race through the material, that arbitrary 3-minute, limit that comes from 300 years ago is inappropriate. Is there another mechanism in this forum to have people say, I'd like to have 10 minutes?
well, I'll just
We'd love the
explain.
10 minutes.
We often are flexible with the time, and if she had said, I only have 30 more seconds, we'd probably let her go on.
Okay.
But I think Lee has more to say, and I think
Yeah.
we want to hear the rest of it.
Yes, sir.
And I think our chair is just trying to balance, because we've got a few people to present tonight, but you make a great point. And the NAB is a place that we can be more flexible.
But I'm not saying flexibility on the spot. Can she apply for a
Oh, yeah.
15-minute spot?
That's very possible too, to have an actual spot on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have this whole topic on the agenda today, so it'd be good.
Yeah, okay.
So the 3-minute thing is, it's not 30 years old, and there have been negative situations contributing to that 3-minute limitation and positive. So I think we got a good start here, and I'm sure we'll have more information, and we appreciate that. Okay,
Before we move on, Mr. Chair, sorry, seeing no other comments in the room, is there anyone on Zoom who'd like to give public comment during this agenda item? If you'd like to give public comment by Zoom, please use the raise hand button at the bottom of the Zoom window.
is that it? Approval of the agenda, possible action. Agenda for this meeting.
You know, this is helpful to leave this up.
I'll second. Oh, okay. All right. All in favor.
Because then
say
they're
aye.
like participating.
Aye. Approved. And hopefully, we've had a chance to look at the minutes for the November 21st meeting. With regards to those minutes, do we have any changes, corrections? Something that should be dealt with regards to those.
Let's look at the minutes for the,
I can second
Okay,
membership for the record.
Thank you.
we have a motion to approve of the minutes.
I think Donna's made the motion and Stacy's made the second. All in favor, please say aye.
I,
Tyler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you.
The council liaison report.
Yeah. Hi,
This is
everyone.
For general announcements, informational items.
Yep. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Good to see everyone and everyone on Zoom. Looks like we have almost 20 people on Zoom. I just want to update you all on a couple things I've been working on. One of those is I am serving now as the liaison to the Historical Resources Commission. This is a new thing started last year. This is my second year. One of the things that I've been passionate about has been the Lear Theater. And I just wanted to tell you that on Friday, I'll be doing an interview on the Lear Theater. The city put out a press release. There was some coverage of that. The bottom line is we got $1 million to assess the Lear, the structural report, to fence it, to keep it from damage, to put in security, to renovate the landscape, renovate the exterior in terms of the steps, railings, concrete, ADA access, that kind of thing. Put in power and water, put in irrigation. So anyway, I'm going to be speaking about that on Friday, and you're going to end up hearing a lot more about that over this next couple of years. But, you know, you're on my naps. I wanted you to know what's happening. It's one of the projects I've been working on for about 7 years, trying first to get the Lear into the city's hands. It was over in our town. Our town did a RFQ type announcement to hand it off to another nonprofit. Didn't really come to fruition, which is why I encouraged the city to step in. We finally took possession this last year. And so now we're at the point where we're actually going to start renovating the exterior. We're also going to be putting up a historic plaque. There are plaques right now that are just signage on the fence right now explaining the project and giving a QR code where you can learn more. And on that note, because I'm on that, I think everybody knows we have some donation funds that we get to give out that I generally give most of mine to city projects. One of the city projects that I've given it to, this just came up last meeting, was I am matching a grant that the city is getting to build historic plaques for 7 other buildings, the Lear being one of them, so 6 plus the Lear. The mayor contributed as well, so together we were able to contribute donation funds to match this grant, to bring in the grant to do these plaques. So we really are trying to expand the city's awareness, community's awareness of our historic resources. Another aspect of this is I asked for this to be put on the agenda for their next meeting, and that is that you may have heard that Jacobs Entertainment recently bought the oldest house in Reno. And so I asked for the oldest house in Reno to be put on the Historic Resources Commission's agenda to discuss its future. And just today, I got an email from a person who's very interested in trying to preserve it, and they've come up with a preservation plan. So I'm going to speak to them in advance of the meeting. And I'm hopeful that maybe for a change, by being proactive, instead of having buildings torn down, we'll be able to save some of Reno's history, even if it means relocating. Okay? And that it's in the path of new development. So that's another aspect. You also know that I serve on the Urban Forestry Commission as one of my assignments, and I have for 10 years. Under that, I started Relief Reno. Well, recently, we got the biggest grant that we've ever gotten, which is $500,000, $500,000 to, in this case, do two things: put in trees along Airway. And there's been a question about why Airway, why the median, et cetera. So I just want to give you 1 minute on that, because I'm getting interviewed on that. I believe it is tomorrow, with a video interview from This Is Reno. So that project is because the airport traditionally has not wanted trees near it, because birds hang out in trees and birds get caught up in plane propellers, and you can have bird plane crashes. In fact, this, you may laugh, but at one point they suggested to me that we cut down all the trees around Virginia Lake because there were too many birds. And those birds would fly from Virginia Lake over to the wetlands that are between Hidden Valley, along Steamboat Creek, and on down to South Reno, right, and hang out there. And they would also go over to Paradise Park, which has a large pond also. So they thought if they could just get rid of the birds at Virginia Lake, then this would help solve the problem. But I have often found that when often we humans decide we have a problem, we come up with a solution, there's often unintended consequences. We haven't really thought it all through and don't understand, if we do this thing, what will happen next? And so we declined to cut down all the trees. In fact, we planted more trees around Virginia Lake. And in fact, we now have worked out an arrangement with the airport to plant along Airway Drive. It's called Airway Drive because it goes near the airport. And there were questions about, well, why are we planting there? It is a very economically depressed area. Okay. The incomes there are lower, so it's on a, I guess it's a HUD parcel that shows lower income, and that's the kind of place they want to give grants to. It also is one of our hottest places in Reno, so we have done a heat map of all of Reno. We know where the hottest places are. They're usually the places that are most devoid of trees. And so it's one. And so it met several criteria and plus 4 more criteria. If you look at other maps about air qualities, let's say, for air quality, because lots of what's happening there, a lot of cars going on Airway. And so why the median and why not on either side? Well, there happens to be old irrigation in the median that we can renovate. Why are we not using volunteers is a question. Well, we're going to be planting trees right in the middle of a busy freeway. That calls for closing the freeway. That calls for people that are technically expert in safety protocols to plant those trees, not our typical volunteers. We're also going to be expanding or renovating our nursery, our growing operation, and Moana Nursery itself has called me and we've met for an hour about, is this in competition with our local nurseries? No, it's not. It's to self-supply trees for Reno. There's nobody requires us to buy trees at retail, right? And we have the facilities already. So it's just a matter of upgrading them a bit to make sure that we can use that facility we already have as effectively as we can. So part of the grant is for that too. And they didn't give us all the money we asked for. I think we asked for 600,000 and they gave us 500,000. So some things will have to be paired off. But at the same time, and then other people say, well, why there? Why not in North Valleys? They need trees too. So that the last meeting at Urban Forestry Commission, they voted to do our tree planting project up in North Valleys at a park there. And I think it's part of Mayor's Park. What's that park? The other park? You and I just looked at it the other day. But anyway, there's equity there too. I mean, we want to get these trees throughout. Our last tree planting project was at a school, Mamie Tolles Elementary. It was devoid of trees. It's been here a long time. No trees. We worked with numerous partners to get a whole tree set, very big trees, protected concrete curbing. I mean, lots of people came out of the woodwork to help with that one, including 100 some volunteers. So a lot going on in these commissions. And the last thing I just wanted to mention was that just today, I was part of a special housing workshop, I guess you would call it. It was co-sponsored by the governor's office and a nonprofit that focuses on housing. Everyone was there. So there were representatives of our federal offices, Washoe County, Sparks and Reno, Fernley came. There were representatives from Lake Tahoe, representatives within the agencies, builders and developers, a room about this size, and it was fully packed. And I was able to discuss a lot of the issues and also learn what is available. It was very thoughtful. It went for about 2 hours, and there were quite a few takeaways. And I got a chance to talk about some of the things we're doing. So I just thought I'd give you a 1 minute on that. We've had the benefit of getting ARPA money. Many of you know this is money come from the federal government for us to basically replace or enhance what we're already doing at the city. Well, one of the things we're already doing is building affordable housing. Not ourselves, but we have been supporting it. We've set up working with the Community Foundation, we've set up an affordable housing trust. And so I gave them examples of 3 projects that we're working on. We took our $52 million in ARPA funding, and we took half of that, and we just right off the top put 25 million towards affordable housing. That's how much we think it's a challenge and an issue for our area, and I think everyone would agree. Some of the projects I discussed today, and I only had 3 minutes of my whole time, was to talk about a project called Sage Street. So this is modular. They used to be called man camps, to use the archaic term, but they're basically housing for mining or big construction sites where you just bring a bunch of people in and you just give them a room. And so these are places with just a room, a closet, and a little desk. And we put in 200 of those in conjunction with the Community Foundation. Well, we had an opportunity to get 100 more, so the city went and bought those. And now we're getting ready to install those. It's an example. Highway 40 motel, we're taking a motel, turning them into living units by combining several units. And then there is an apartment complex that we're helping construct. Excuse me. We're also looking at amending our Title 18 rules to facilitate this. And I gave a pretty big speech about this. And my speech was about, I'm not entirely sure this is the way to go. I'd rather give incentives than change our regulatory scheme. The reason is the regulatory scheme is there for a reason, to protect neighborhoods, to protect parking, transportation, shading, community values. And do we need to trade that all away for housing? Like, is it just an either or? Is it a zero-sum game? We either have nice neighborhoods or neighborhoods that aren't so nice, but now have more affordable housing. I think there's a more of a win-win than that. And I'm not too excited about trading away the protections that we built into our Title 18 in pursuit of this important goal, right? It's an important goal. We're looking at ADUs, we're looking at short-term rentals, we're looking at money. We have already put in $8 million in waiving sewer connection fees and permitting fees, most of it sewer connection fees. Well, think about it. Sewer fund has a certain amount of money. And now it's short 8 million because we've said you don't need to pay. Well, that means the rest of us are paying. I mean, there's no free lunch. We can't keep up our sewer system without having the money. And we already know we're short on money. So what we're going to be doing is asking the state to set up a fund to help us underwrite those so that we aren't shorting the sewer fund for the rest of us. And then there are many other ideas I don't have time to cover today, but I wanted to give you just a flavor. But I also wanted to share with you one caution that I gave this group. And that is, it's the downside of a good thing. The good thing is that we're bringing a lot of diverse businesses here to the Reno area. High tech, construction, all kind of manufacturing, distribution. It's driving up wages, which is a good thing. We've historically had pretty low wages because we are a service economy. Well, your affordable housing, the way it works is it's tied to the annual median income. So if a housing unit, this housing unit, you get to move in and you get to pay 50% of the annual median income. Okay, maybe that means your rent is $800. Well, what happens when the annual median income goes up? You pay 50% of the new number. And our annual median income has been going up each year. And so the people that are living in subsidized housing, getting those vouchers, Section 8 vouchers and other kind of forms of subsidies, each year they have to pay more because they are tied to this annual median income. And so what's happened is that their social security didn't increase that much. They didn't suddenly get a windfall that they could afford another $50 and then another $100 next year. And then what I've run into is another $200 the next year. Suddenly, they're paying $400 more than they were just 5 years ago. They didn't get $400 more, so they're even poorer. So it's a good thing that our wages are going up, but it's a bad thing, the impact it's having on housing. I testified about 1.5 years ago, before the last session, that we should not allow this to happen to where these people's rent just went up 20%. Just because, no good reason, except we're all benefiting. We're all better off, so they're worse off. I said, no, there's probably is a good example, seniors and affordable housing, where we should think about capping those rent increases, okay? So the legislature actually considered that, and I think the bill they put forward eventually got vetoed, but I think it's gonna come back. And so these are just some of the things we discussed today, and it's not stuff I get to talk to you all about very often, but I wanted to just share some of the things that are happening at the city. So with that, any questions of me?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
you wanna take-
Anybody has a comment, question, what you just heard? We talked about trees, the Lear, horses. We're gonna hear about the trail today. Yes.
Easy question first. Your interview on Lear is with whom?
What's that?
You said you're being interviewed on Friday about.
Yeah.
Lear. By whom?
Great question. I think it's our DJ. It's Brent McGinnis.
And second question, this conference that you were just describing,
That was like a informal workshop of people in the biz.
wasn't like a general, because I'm just.
No, I think it was just, they have like a consortium of people, so they had the state there, et cetera, and really the state convened, well, it was a nonprofit that convened it. The state showed up for it, like the State Housing Division. But, we also have other kind of workshops that are open to the public. This one wasn't. You couldn't even fit the people that needed to talk in the room. Could they have gotten a bigger room? Yes, but they wouldn't have got the same result. Their same result was to share information with people on the ground that are doing the work every day. And also to hear, particularly from the people that are building affordable housing, what can we do to help them? So the whole thing, like I said, was maybe 1.5 hours, 2 hours. It was just like any meeting that government has. But, I thought it was interesting. There was only one elected, me. There was one elected from Sparks. There were no electeds from Washoe. Most of the people were people on the ground that actually do the work. So, and there were 2 managers there, one from Fernley, one from Washoe County. So, it was a pretty limited attendance kind of a deal. Any other questions, comments?
Well,
Yes,
I
sir.
would comment that the question you raised about subsidized housing.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the people that are supposed to benefit,
Yes,
whatever their stream of income is, it's not going up as fast as that
Exactly.
metric.
right.
And then you have to create a gap. And of
Yes.
course, we all don't, that's the last group that we want to be disadvantaged.
Exactly.
It requires government to really do a lot of thinking because it's a complicated problem. First of all, of course, you have to understand the nature of inflation. Where does it really come from?
Right.
And then, how do you pass it through? Because if you do subsidize, let's say you limit
Yeah.
how much their rent can go up, then it comes from somewhere. That money,
Well, in this case, I'll just address that. It really goes to the bottom line of the affordable housing folks. This would be unexpected, call it windfall income. They have no control over the average wages and, in Sparks, Washington County going up, but they would be benefiting.
Okay, so there'd be.
So I have personally asked them in this dynamic, since we don't have laws about this, could you do less? Do you have to take this windfall? Or could you do less in the interest of,
Because they're profit-making entities.
everybody is, right? Anybody who
Right,
builds
sure,
anything
of
is
course.
making a profit.
But it just is it's a mountain of thought.
It is.
any more time you can
Okay,
get more input, to think about it more,
Yeah.
more offsites. It's very easy for government to stumble into a
well,
situation that makes everything a little
it
bit
took me
worse.
a while to figure it all out because I suddenly realized, why are these rents going up? And then I found out that they are allowed to increase the prices as the annual median income goes up. This isn't something I knew going in. I had to figure out what is going on here. So you're absolutely right. But it's EDON that's been driving the wages up by bringing in these good companies.
Mhm,
And they're also worried about housing.
mhm.
But again, I often say, I call it the unintended consequences of well-meaning people. They're trying to do a good thing, but it also has an unfortunate side effect. We just have to be aware of those and plan for them, mitigate them.
Any other questions?
Is there anyone on Zoom who'd like to give public comment on this item? If you'd like to give public comment by Zoom, please use the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom window.
Okay,
We have no comment.
thanks, everyone.
All right. Next we need staff liaison report. So, by the way, we've got 3 openings on that. If you're interested,
Well,
we could sure use you.
I'm actually surprised.
That's actually part of my update,
Oh.
Mr. Chair.
Open up.
At the February 14th council meeting, Council Vice Mayor Dewar appointed 2 new NAB members who will be joining us in the March
Oh, great.
NAB meeting, which, by the way, is on March 19th at 5:30 PM right here in this room, so mark your calendars. The 2 new NAB members are Mike Ginsburg and Roman Schomburg. So we filled 2 vacancies and it's going to be coming back in March, as Vice Mayor Dewar continues to meet with applicants.
I have 3 more applicants to meet with. We have 2 more spots. And one of the things I'm looking at too is I think some more people are gonna be turning out pretty shortly. So I'm just looking at the future.
The people,
You know, the
so we
longer
have people ready to go in.
Yeah.
If you have people ready.
And also, just in case you're wondering, I have been allowing people from Ward 1. I think Mike Ginsburg, Schomburg is in Ward 2 already. But Ginsburg is in Ward 1 because our ward is shifting north. Now Schomburg lives south. Maybe he will join the new Ward 6 NAB. But I'm trying to add a few people that are north, just like Donna is in Ward 1. I'm trying to add more of those so that by the time the new NAB goes into effect in November, we have a NAB that more like resembles the new Ward 2.
All right, any other staff liaison reports? You've got other reports?
I do have one more update for everyone. Tyler Shaw, Community Liaison for the record. I'm excited to let everyone know about a new program that the city is launching. It's our Community Champions program. The Community Champions program aims to increase engagement, connection, and civic pride in the city of Reno by identifying and celebrating community role models and inspiring others to follow in their footsteps. So to get to the webpage, all you have to do is Google City of Reno Community Champions, and it's got a little bit of background. This program is designed for the unsung heroes of our community, so people who maybe contribute to the community in a way that most people don't see or most people will never know. If you have someone you know who does something in the community, is very active, I would encourage you to nominate them. Nominations will be coming to the NABs quarterly. That'll be starting not this quarter, I think it'll be in April. That we'll be having our first round of nominations come back to the NAB. They'll be getting a little plaque and a swag bag, just recognizing their contributions to the city.
Are they nominees or been selected?
It'll be up to each council member, so we'll go through it together and look at the applications. There's no limit, so anyone who applies, if they're all merit the award, they're more than welcome to come to the NAB, and we'll be going from there. But I just wanted to give everyone the update and
The
encourage.
ceremony will occur here.
Yes, the ceremony will be here. It'll be an agendized item, so if you're interested in participating or seeing that, it'll be on the agenda, which can be found at reno.gov/meetings.
So this is a take.
Do
Go
we
ahead.
need a champagne budget item here?
No, no, we don't.
So the city had started a program where once a quarter citywide, we recognize somebody. And what we found is those tended to be people we knew that had already sort of distinguished themselves citywide, and a lot of people knew them. And there was only 4 of them, right? 1 a quarter, 4 for the whole city. In this way, there could be 5 a quarter or more. And that would be 20, not 4. And these are people that might be more known to us locally and might be less well-known citywide. So the idea is to encourage that kind of behavior and recognize it and support it and celebrate it.
And to identify people who may want to move up into the positions because
That could be
they've done this,
too.
let's do something else.
That could be too.
You know, busy people do busy things.
That's true.
Good. All right, thank you. Okay, I need some guidance here.
Okay,
The next item, the business items, one is update on the Virginia Range Trails project. And these are only discussion items only, and then update the Virginia Range fencing project. Now, because we already had something in fencing, we could flip those, but I don't know if that throws off.
I mean,
Mr. Chair, I think it would be best if we could go in the order it's on the agenda, just.
So in that order.
Yeah, just to make sure it's not
That's fine.
confusing.
Let's go ahead then up to the update of the Virginia Range Trails project, discussion items only. Jay Howard.
and what this means is we're not gonna make a vote. I asked for this to be on the agenda because Garth Oxel, Tracy Wilson and I have been working on this for, I don't know, 4 months, 6 months. And it seemed like a good time to give an update right now, because we're getting ready to go into a next phase, which will be actually construction installation. So this seemed like a perfect time since it's in our ward to get an update on the fence.
We do have Jay Howard here by Zoom. Jay, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
And you could
Okay,
put him
fantastic.
on speaker view. There
Okay.
you go.
Well, good evening to the board and to everybody in the audience. Thanks so much for having me. My name's Jay Howard, and I'm with the Truckee Meadows Trails program. And I'm an employee of the Truckee Meadows Parks Foundation, that is the administrative and fiscal home for the program. But if I can just talk for a quick moment about the program as a basis for kind of what we're doing here. Truckee Meadows Trails started in 2017 when some federal land managers and local trail advocates came together to try to put together a program that could work on a regional basis to improve our trail system, to create connectivity that we don't currently have with trails and pathways, and just to generally improve our trails in the Truckee Meadows. So here we are, many years later. We've got the Truckee Meadows Trail Plan and Report is kind of the foundational document that we're using for the program, but that document lacked the action side of things, and you know, we needed kind of an action plan to bring everything together. So that's the major effort that we're working on right now, along with some of these great projects that we have going on. But that major effort that I just spoke of is the creation of a Truckee Meadows Regional Trails Plan, which is the action side of everything we want to do with this program, implementing projects, working with partners. The Truckee Meadows Trails program, I'm the coordinator for the program, and I coordinate a working group of 27 different entities, which includes the local governments, the 2 cities and the county, and all of the trail advocates, nonprofits, and folks from the trail community here in the Truckee Meadows. So suffice it to say, it's an effort to bring everybody together with this single purpose, this collaboration to improve our trail system. With this regional trails plan effort that we started out on, part of what we did was put together a mapping exercise to look at the region as a whole and see where the existing trails were, where we needed to have trails in order to create better connectivity, and where kind of the trail deserts were in the region, those places that just didn't have any trail access at all. So it was interesting in this mapping exercise to see that Southeast Reno and Eastern Sparks, this whole eastern side of the Truckee Meadows area, had some resources there, but really kind of lacked a lot of trail resources and certainly the connectivity that we want to see to sort of tie together the whole region. Um, so, we knew that, for example, this area of Southeast Reno was somewhere that we could work and try to get something going there. It was about the same time that um, Councilwoman Dewar, Naomi, came to us with a vision for a project that made total sense, and it kind of filled a gap, if you will, in that area of Reno, southeast Reno, that we're talking about, the Virginia Range, and this part of the Virginia Range, which is the Damonte Hills. So it was kind of a collision of all these different ideas and efforts. And it's just worked out so nicely that we've got this project in development right now, in order to hopefully put together a recreation corridor where we can someday have a trail in this Virginia Range area. So very excited about that. So you probably, I think everybody in the room has an idea of what it is we're doing. So I won't dwell too much on, what the project is, just to say that it's a vision for public safety, recreation access and wildlife protection. I mean, we're talking about the horses and all forms of wildlife in the area, that need to be protected from getting down into populated areas where it can be a bad thing, right? So people get hurt on roadways, animals obviously get hurt. We want to address all these issues, but from my perspective, provide, recreation access in this area, access that doesn't currently exist. So the project that we're putting together here is just a look at the area in terms of feasibility, what's going to be possible for us. There's a lot of private land ownership in the area. In fact, it's primarily privately owned. So that gives us a lot of work reaching out to folks, the private landowners, to talk to them about the possibility of rights of way or easements, that sort of thing. We're still in the early developmental stages of this project, so there's not too many more details to give other than that. That we're in the process right now of reaching out to folks, and it looks like our best opportunity at this time is up at the northern end of this project area. And let me back up for a moment. The project area being, at this point, what we'd like to see is trail connectivity from the Hidden Valley Trail System up in the north, all the way down to Geiger Grade. So that's the area that we're talking about. And in the northern portion of that area, in that Hidden Valley Trail System area, there's a dirt road up in there called Desert Way, and the extension of that is Alexander Road, further off to the west, goes underneath Veterans Parkway. So right up in there, we see an opportunity to work with the landowner, to kind of get our feet wet and to start to see, realistically how this corridor might tie into the existing Hidden Valley Trail System. There's a proposal right now that we're learning more about. I'm working with Washoe County to find out more about it. It's a proposal to the county to bring in some utilities and to develop these large parcels. It looks like they're 5+ acres, larger parcels. I think quite a bit more than that in that area. And there's 4 or 5 of them that the landowner wants to see get developed. That's the proposal anyways. So we want to make sure that trails get considered with all of that. And in fact, the county is requiring that trails be put in place. So that's a great opportunity for us to, like I said, get our feet wet and to start to learn more about how this northern end can be connected to those existing Hidden Valley trails. The project development team that we've got together involves all the governments, you know, the city of Reno, Washoe County. The Biggest Little Trail Stewardship is one of the very active volunteer organizations in the Truckee Meadows, do most of their work in Reno, but they like to kind of spread things around the Truckee Meadows as well. Some of you may have heard of the Biggest Little Trail Stewardship. Like I said, I'm working with the Truckee Meadows Parks Foundation, and the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency as well is a very important partner in all this. I think down the road, we are, you know, something that we're working on right now is reaching out to and coordinating with the Nevada Land Trust. There's a lot that they can do to help us with guidance and, you know, facilitation of, you know, reaching out to folks, the private landowners, and you know, developers to try to work trails into, you know, whatever plans they may have for their properties. Eventually, I'd like to work with a company called Sierra Trail Works, or a company like them that can help us get out there on the ground and do some ground truthing and start putting some conceptual trail alignments on a map. But there's so much that has to be done on a preliminary basis working with these private landowners so that we can avoid their whatever plans they have for developments. And you know, the beauty of all this is trails can be kind of up in these 30% slope areas that aren't going to be developable. So I think there's going to be, you know, something really good that comes out of this. And heck, I'm not sure if I've got too much more than that.
Well, Jay, thank you so much. I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna add a 1 minute.
Yeah, please do.
I started this project. They gave each council member $70,000 to do of ARPA money to do a project that we wanted to do or had been wanting to do, but had not had the money to do. Well, getting a conceptual trail corridor in the Virginia range was something I'd been wanting to do since I got on council. So we're going on 10 years, but there never was money to do it. And I asked the city to do an area plan. They couldn't really, they struggled with what that looked like and how to do it and how to bring the people together. They didn't really have staffing to do that. So I stopped talking about that after a while. But it was really driven by the fact that I knew development is coming to these hills. And what I wanted to make sure is that we had concomitant trail infrastructure built at the same time. And that we, instead of just the trails going wherever we weren't developing, whatever the leftover land was, that's often how parks are, that we actually took a more proactive approach and said, where would we like this trail? Where are some, let's say, scenic overlooks or items of geographic interest, potentially archaeological interest or animal interest or interesting plants? Where are those special things that people want to know about and see? And identify those and use those as a guide to developing the trail. So as a starting point, I gave $50,000 through the city council appropriation process over to the Parks Foundation to take the lead. And as Jay said, their goal in the time allotted, which is only a 2-year period, in fact, it may only be a 1.5 year period. It has to all be done by 2026. I wanted them to identify on maps and as much field truthing as we could where a potential Hidden Valley to Geiger grade trail system could go. Well, the reason I call it a trail system or a trail corridor is that it could be for walking, it could be for biking, could be for runners, could be for off-road vehicles. There are plenty of them up there. The bottom line is I wanted people to stop cutting fences and have legal access to be able to walk on a trail. So right now what happens, you already heard Kelly talk about all the fences that are cut. Often those are cut by people such as walkers, runners, off-road vehicles that want access, but they've been cut off by development or this fencing. And so they just cut holes in the fence and go do what they want. And rather than that, I would like to put a gate so they could, and then I'd like to have legal access to where they could actually walk. So the goal is to bring some kind of rationality to what is kind of a Wild West type system right now, where anything goes and nothing goes, and it's not very organized, and there are some mostly losers. The landowners have impacts, the animals have impacts. It's just not very good. So this was a goal to kind of create some order out of chaos and provide real true access to some still open lands. So thank you for being here, Jay. Yes, a question from
I'm
Steve.
just curious if we're gonna keep motorized and unmotorized separate.
That was my goal.
Okay.
And so they're gonna be looking at, can there be a dual trail system or a different trail system, or how do we handle motorized, because they're there. I mean, a lot of people use ATVs, off-road vehicles to get to their properties up there. And then other people go riding up there for a variety of purposes, right? For fun or whatever. And I've seen plenty of them, but it doesn't often go very well with walkers, especially if you've got a very narrow trail. So we've talked about some even, what is it called? Alternate recreation, where people that, well, anyway,
Yeah,
What is it?
yeah, you might be referring to like adaptive cycling.
adaptive cycling, for
Right,
example, they need a
that's the
wider
term.
trail than, let's say, a 3-foot wide trail. So I've asked them to look at it all. Okay,
Right, and I think the idea of a recreation corridor, that if we think in terms of, you know, not limiting ourselves to just like a single track trail system, which is typically what you would do for non-motorized uses. I think in this area, we've really got to think in terms of a much wider corridor that can accommodate all these different uses. So it's nothing new in the Virginia range. We've got the same issue out in Sun Valley, where we know that if we want to have a formalized trail system out there for non-motorized uses, we can't just take opportunities away from other user groups. So the OHV folks, you know, they have a right to be out there as well and to do what they want to do to recreate. So I think it's the same situation in the Virginia range. There's a lot of different valid uses out there. You know, the equestrian group is another group that you want to try to accommodate. And we just need to have a multi-use corridor that can be used by everybody. So that's the idea. And Naomi, I might just add that again, this is such a special place to be up in these hills like that because of all of the development that's happened over the years, right? There's so many folks that live right out there. And looking at the maps on a preliminary basis, there's so many opportunities to bring access down into where folks live and to make connections with existing pathways and things like that. So we definitely want to have formal trailheads at either end of this thing, but I think in between, there's going to be lots of opportunities to provide access for people to just recreate right out their front doors almost. You know, the folks that live in those neighborhoods closest to the hills.
and that's what's happening. It's just that they're trespassing every day on people's property, wherever they want to go, doing whatever they want to do. So,
Yeah.
okay,
Sorry, this is Al for the record. Again, it's important that we recognize, for instance, four-wheel vehicles, whether they are. Those are different kinds of trails because, you know, we all know of instances where those vehicles were on a narrow trail and ended up off the trail and people got hurt. So that's why we've got to be very aware of the needs of these different constituencies. You know, they both got a reason to be there and to enjoy it. But there are safety concerns like that we have to be aware of so that we're doing a trail system for motorized vehicles. And maybe one set of criteria, walkers, bikes, whatever, maybe another set of criteria. So therefore, obviously, if we can utilize the experience of other organizations that have worked with these problems before, I think we can actually save time, help the city and the county and everybody put the thing together. I would, the next time we're back on the subject though, I would appreciate some sort of map.
well, I agree. And so the last time Jay showed a map, I mean, people got worked up like, well, that's our land. Well, of course, all of this is private land. But I suspect that's why Jay didn't show a map because there is no map. Anything he would draw is like a theory. It's nobody's map, but people tend to take a map and say, oh,
Right.
well, here's the map of the trail and look, it goes right through my new subdivision or whatever.
Right.
So
So we get drifting off the other issues with that one.
Right, I suspect
That's
that's
fine.
why, am I right, Jay, that you didn't show a map?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Not
it
quite there yet.
exactly. At city council, I shared, several months ago, right, Naomi,
Yeah.
I shared that very conceptual map that we had at that time, which was really, like you said, nothing more than just looking at the topography of the area and drawing a line sort of indiscriminately around where we knew trails would typically be possible if you didn't have any other considerations. So in this particular area, there's a lot of other considerations, and it's mainly the idea of these development plans that we know, private landowners have in a lot of cases, not in all cases, but we've just got to take the time to find out, to reach out to these landowners, find out as much as we can about their development plans, and then act accordingly when we're putting lines on a map. I mean, right now we've got this active thing going on at the very north end of this whole region because we know that there's development plans right in there. But it takes time, unfortunately, to reach out to everybody. I've got a meeting next week, for example, with Washoe County to learn more about what's happening right in there with the Hidden Valley Regional Open Space and Sunny Hills Ranchos, which is the major landowner up at the north end of this whole kind of zone. So we're working at it. And once I get a map in place that feels a little bit more realistic, like it's something we can really, work towards and make happen, I'd be happy to come back to this group and share,
Sure.
whatever mapping we have at that time. But at this point, it's just so dang conceptual. I'm kind of holding it close at this point.
Right, no, understood, and I appreciate those comments. Any other questions or comments by NAB members? Okay, questions, comments by members of the public?
Seeing none in the room, is there anyone on Zoom who'd like to give public comment on this item? If you'd like to give public comment by Zoom, please use the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Mr. Chair, I don't see any public comment on this item.
Thank you so much, Jay. I'm excited about the progress.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Okay, is it now time to talk about fencing?
Yes.
Let's talk about fencing. How do you want to start this? We've got.
Good, Garth.
Garth?
Yes, we do have Garth here.
And I think he has a PowerPoint on that.
Yes, he does.
Okay.
Pulling it up right now.
And if you'll identify yourself for the record, obviously.
All right, thank you, everyone. My name is Garth Oaksall. I'm with JUB Engineers. We've been hired by the city of Reno to help them take some ideas, some concepts, some thoughts in collaboration with the Virginia Range Wild Horse Connection, and start getting some improvements put out there in our community. As Kelly alluded to earlier, December was an absolutely horrendous month for wild horses in the area. A lot of horses were struck. And unfortunately, when they're hit by a vehicle, that usually results in them being euthanized. So there's no recovery in a lot of instances for them. So we started with taking a look at kind of what's out there, where are some needs, where can we make some improvements? And we're going to break this up into kind of a couple of phases. We've got this north phase on the screen right here. And Tyler, I know you said you were going to follow with the mouse. I'm just going to walk and point here. So just to orient everyone in the room with where we're at, north is going to be that direction to the right. We've got Damani Ranch High School down here. This is basically the Damani Ranch area. These are the wetlands, Home Depot and Safeway, if you're familiar with where that is. We move up here into Double Diamond. IGT is the big white building up there. And then we've got the effluent treatment pond up here by Rattlesnake Mountain. So hopefully that kind of orients you where we're at north here. Just real quick on the very far right, this is Hidden Valley, the southern end of Hidden Valley right here. So we can go to the next slide, which will zoom in. here where, again, you can see Hidden Valley in the bottom right of your image. Heron's Landing in the top right. Mira Loma just barely makes a little appearance there on the right-hand side of the screen. On the far left side is Alexander Lake Road. That's that narrow little two-lane road that goes behind Rattlesnake. You access that off of McCarran. It essentially dead ends there by what was and well, it still is an NDOT aggregate pit. They've got a little pit there where they do a lot of training with their drivers right now, but that's an area where horses currently have about 50 feet of access to Steamboat Creek. So an idea that Vice Mayor Dewar had was, can we make that area more accessible to horses? So what you see on here, it's kind of hard to tell with the lighting in here, but there's a light green line running right here. That's existing fence, then jogs up the hill following the dark red, and goes all the way over to the south end of Hidden Valley where Mira Loma makes that turn. So the light green line is the area of fence that we're removing that limits the horses from getting to Steamboat Creek. We're gonna take that fence and move it to the other side of Steamboat Creek, put it at the bottom of the embankment of Veterans Parkway. And then we'll put a floodway fence in there where the cursor is just moving a floodway fence in there, so we don't do any detrimental impacts to the floodway in that area. It's a specialized fence that we've come up with. So that actually takes about 50 feet right now and makes over 1,000 feet that the horses have access to the
And
creek.
Garth, today, the green, I love how you explain this, but a lot of the green is not in good shape.
Correct.
So-
The entire length, as Kelly alluded to, the entire length of this starting up here at Mira Loma and going all the way down to Alexander Lake Road is in very poor condition. In fact, we'll update real quick. I haven't had a chance to talk to you today, but I talked to BLM and they want us to put in a different permit. But we'll get this much simpler one. So we
Okay.
gotta start with the process. Part of the issue is they have no record of that fence ever being approved on BLM property, and asked what I knew about it. And I said, I think Mr. Butler, Paul Butler, was making his sons, punishing them or something, set up on the hillside and said, put in a fence, because it was not anything done in a professional manner. Some of those fence posts are just held up by stacks of rock. Over the decades of wind, snow, ice, and even horses pushing them, the fence is very poor condition. So we will put that all into today's standards, today's specifications for fencing in that area, make it much more robust, so the horses won't be able to push that over. We're removing all the wood posts that are up there. Everything will be metal, so if there's an event of a wildfire in that area, it'll have a much greater chance of survival. So that's basically what we're doing here on the north end. The cattle guard, if you've been out in this area, that's at the end of Alexander Lake Road, that cattle guard is actually right on BLM property. When I was the project manager for Veterans Parkway, we wanted to go in and clean that up because it's been filled in with dirt. Well, once we realized it was on BLM property, we didn't want to add another permit to that project, so we didn't touch that one. But what we're doing is we're gonna move the cattle guard onto City of Reno property. So there will actually be the ability to maintain it, own it, operate it, without having to deal with, shared property on both sides of the cattle guard. Now, from an operation and maintenance standpoint, one of the things we went into this project with the idea of is we wanted to remove the human element. Meaning, we didn't want to have gates that people are leaving open, so everything has a passive mechanism, if you will, to it. The cattle guards are precast and they're very deep, so they won't be able to be filled in with just, stormwater running dirt off. Or what I heard is the cattle guard at Alexander Lake Road, people actually intentionally filled that in. Well, this is a very deep precast cattle guard, so the chances of it filling in are pretty minimal. In addition to that, we have a pedestrian gate that's called, the kind of common vernacular, common term for it is called the kissing gate. And it automatically closes. The device that we've specified is good up to 1 million closes of it. And then at that point, you would just get a new one, a replacement part, and they're fairly cheap. They're about $300 for a new one of those gates. So something that's easily maintainable in the future. Again, pedestrians, we don't have to think about them closing, and it automatically closes behind them. So that's what we're doing there at Alexander Lake Road. And if we want to go to the next slide, we jump down to Rio Wrangler. So this one, when we plotted it, something happened in the background, and I didn't notice that until I was making preparations to come out here. So I apologize for that. But if you know where Rio Wrangler Parkway is, that's the road that goes in front of Demonte Ranch High School. There's a intersection there with Steamboat Parkway. It continues north and it just dead ends right now. This was the access to the gun range when it was in operation. very popular access point for mountain bikers, hikers, off-road vehicles. Again, the problem is human element. They've got to close the gates that are there. The gate that has been there, I'm not even sure how many times it's been replaced, but it's been struck multiple times, intentionally, unintentionally. It's just been a very, very difficult spot to keep secure. So part of that is additionally the cattle guard, right where the mouse is right now, where the hand is, that the cattle guard is right there that splits property. So again, we're moving the cattle guard into City of Reno right away. So there is a true owner, operator, someone responsible for it. Same type of cattle guard, precast, extra deep. We're doing the kissing gate in this area as well. We're also installing some additional gates further away. So the wild horse connection, if horses happen to get on the wrong side, they have access to their own gates that they can put the horses back onto the proper side of the fence. Now, the next agenda item coming, the Sunny Hills development, if that goes in a timing manner and their fencing covers their property, this improvement would not have to be done. So that could be a cost savings that we can use further south, which I'll get into here in a few slides, but that we do currently have a design moving forward on this. We're going to advertise it as a bid option, meaning if Sunny Hills comes in and does theirs, we can option that out of the contract. So that's how we're moving forward in doing this location. So we can go to the next slide. Now this, so just to orient you, right off the right of the screen where Rio Wrangler, the black line, thank you, dead ends, just a little bit further right, that just off the screen is where we were just talking about. We identified another hole down here at the bottom of the screen and kind of in the middle. There's a red line right there. It's a drainage way. And there's nothing preventing horses from getting to Rio Wrangler Parkway right now. So we're gonna put in a floodway style fence in that location. Again, an area that was identified as the Wild Horse Connection let us know about that one. We went out, took a look at it ourselves, and we'll be putting a kissing gate or the pedestrian gate there as well, because there's a little pathway that homeowners use in that area. We can go to the next slide. Now we're moving further south. This is the aggregate pit. This is the Toll Brothers development. You see all these homes here, but that big aggregate pit you see up on the hillside. Just over time, the fence has not been maintained. You can see it on the right side of the screen, the thick red line. It's just various parcels and property owners. Some people maintained their fence, some didn't. So we're gonna go in and put in an up-to-date fence line in there. The other issue is right where the mouse was, right there, the cursor, is the entrance to the aggregate pit. When they're not in operation, their gate's open. They've got trucks going in and out all day long. When they are, at night, on the weekends, they close it. Obviously, during the day, horses can get out. So we want to work with the aggregate pit owners and put in another one of those cattle guards there. We verified they're load rated, so the loaded trucks coming out of there won't be an issue with that cattle guard. As we move further south, the NV Energy substation there for Buck Toll Brothers, there's some old fence in that location where some volunteers have gone in and tried to repair it themselves. We'll go in and put in, again, a more sturdy and robust fence line. And then right there, the far left, there's a little access point right at the very northeast corner of the Virginia foothills. There's a trail there that people like to use. We're going to put in another one of those pedestrian access gates there. So that is essentially the north face. We chose this as the division line because as we move further south, which we can go to the next slide, as we move further south, the concern is if we start doing more improvements there, we're just driving horses down onto Geiger Grade. So we don't have it on here, but at Kenneth Way,
You can go
there's
back.
I don't know if the next image,
Oh.
I didn't include Kenneth Way
Oh.
because that's part of the south face. But Kenneth Way is a road at the top of the Virginia foothills that is an opening right now. Horses are coming in right there. We thought about putting that one in, but we realized if we put in a cattle guard there, the horses are just gonna drive right to Geiger Grade. So the thinking was we'd rather have them have access to the Virginia foothills right now where the traffic is slower than to have them go to Geiger Grade. So Kenneth Way and what you see on the next image, this south phase is kind of all tied together. So what you see here again is now north is up. So we've rotated the picture, north is up. You can see Geiger Grade identified on there, the curvy line. We've got Toll Road kind of coming across the middle at a diagonal of the image, and then on the far left is South Virginia or US 395. So what we've got shown here is fairly advanced, I would say maybe conceptual fence line. There's a lot of property owners to discuss, but we've had a lot of field visits out there. We're trying to maximize as much fence as possible with people's backyards, especially down on the south side here with Ravaza Lane or Ravaza Road. That follows the back of a bunch of people's backyards, so we're trying to maximize again where fence is located. This blue section that you see here that follows Gyre Grade, that would follow NDOT right away. So we can again partner with them of utilizing some of the existing fence that they've got. The fence does cross Gyre Grade, so we've had some preliminary discussions with NDOT, yeah, right there, of putting the cattle guard in. Long-term future plans, more money, more funding, potentially a wildlife overpass or underpass along Gyre Grade. We're again starting those conversations with them, but in the meantime, a cattle guard would fit our immediate needs to keep the horses out of the urban setting and keep them up into the natural habitat. And just as we come down along to the left side of your screen there, we tie into Old Virginia Street there, or excuse me, Virginia Street, Old 395. There's a little business, I'm not sure what the business is yet, looking at, it's hard to tell from the street what's going on there, but there's a cattle guard that they had put in when they recently improved their property. It looks like within the last few years. So we could tie in right there. That little dip you see in the fence line, if you're familiar with there's a mobile home community in that area, and that would loop around that little mobile home community. So that's a real quick update on where we're at with the project. We essentially have the north phase funded. The south phase, we're still working with funding on that. The advantage we have is we can hopefully tap into some of the NDOT resources for their fencing along Gyre Grade. We've had conversations with the Nevada Department of Agriculture. They have their own set of funding where they were previously targeting further south. We're hoping to refocus their efforts up north here of showing what we've done, who we've talked with, what we're doing, and utilizing the fact that unfortunately, December was a horrible month for the wild horses getting hit, as we alluded to earlier. You know, put your money where it's going to have the greatest impact. Save these horses where we've had the most amount of human horse interactions that have not gone very well for the horses, unfortunately. So we're hoping that conversation continues in between Washoe County. They've got some funding. They've actually got some material in their yard we can use. City of Reno's obviously a big player in this, and then tapping into NDOT in the Nevada Department of Ag. We're hoping we can get the south phase done before the next feeding season starts, which Tracy, remind me again, is it September?
August.
October to April.
October. So we want to get the south phase done hopefully before the next feeding, the diversionary feeding season.
I do want to say this was another ARPA project, so I was able to get $500,000 for this project. Unfortunately, like all of the projects you're going to be hearing about over the last few months or the next few months, they're all coming in at the same design level, and they're all coming in needing twice as much money. So it's placemaking. Downtown, they had 1.6, I think. They need 2.4 million more. The river, we had $3 million. We need at least $1 million more. This project, we need a doubling. We need $500,000 more dollars. And so there's other projects too. I'm not even mentioning here. There are probably 10 projects, and every single one of them. In fact, today at my meeting with the affordable housing, they said that sewer costs in the last 3 years have gone up almost 100%. 87% in 3 years to build what we could have built 3 years ago. Now the cost is twice as much on all of the water and sewer projects. I'm crazy. This is crazy, but this is the world we're in. And so we are negotiating for either additional ARPA money, partners, but the more partners we have, the more ARPA,
What is the?
American Recovery and Protection Act, I think.
Rescue Plan Act.
What is it?
It's the American Rescue Plan Act.
Okay, the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, ARPA. And so, you know, the more partners and money we have to do, I just talked to Garth about doing an MOU for all our partners. So we're all on the same page with the same project. So that's probably what we're gonna do. But anyway, we don't have our other half of the money, and we're not interested in building half of a fence. In other words, we've either got to fence the horses off the streets or not. Like, if we only do half of it, they will be going around. So it'd be like we didn't do it. So I'm not that person, and I don't want to be that person. So I'm working very hard to get the additional funds. And just to make sure you know, the fence is not what the expense is. It's the cattle guards. The cattle guards cost about $25,000, and to install, the total cost $40,000. So 10 cattle guards, which we definitely need, that's $400,000. That's our whole budget. We didn't even put in the first fence. So that's, or the first gate, the kissing gate. So that's our challenge here is, getting the cost for these cattle guards covered. Okay, phenomenal questions,
Okay,
right?
well, first of all, questions by,
Great presentation, thank you.
and you're all. Thank you. Members of the public, oh, you're the one, you're the best person.
How would we
But
get?
you know, if you want, you can come up here, so. If you want to speak to the whole group.
Well, she asked how we get more money while she's coming up. I found out that Washoe County's already bought a cattle guard, so there's one. I found out that, NDOT is very willing, I guess, to purchase their cattle guard for Geiger grade and their fence. It's really gonna be a question of getting Department of Agriculture to part with some of their $1 million that they got for fence, which is also federal dollars, which is from a completely different pot of money. Our senators were, instrumental in getting that money, and we wanna make sure that the money is used for, I mean, the people that advocated to get the money had this project in mind. So I'm hopeful that some of the money could go to the project that it was designed for.
All right.
Yeah.
And,
So yeah, I mean, can we have donations? I don't know if the.
Oh, yeah.
People can help, that kind of thing.
Which people?
So, and, all of our wild horse groups.
Yes.
donations, Things like that. So I would just say, if I could, right now, just say, 10 years ago, when a lot of this development first started and they rounded up 150 horses, a lot of them came from our area. And when they were building, Demonte Ranch High School, Curdy Ranch, all these little different places, they did not mitigate for the wild horses. They have beautiful walking trails that we use to walk the horses all the way from Veterans back up to the fence line. The walking trails are lovely, though, and thank you for the waterway fencing, because these are open paths into the houses. And so I would just ask the new people, new developments, why can't you just plan for paths that the horses could go on? A lot of the new people I have found that have moved into this area really like them. And I really think that they would pay premiums for a horse property. I really think that, if my house is backing up to the horses, they're gonna pay a premium for that lot because they like it. I mean, I just feel like there should be, these waterways that the horses use now. We sometimes have to push them into the waterways off of Rio Wrangler because it's the only place for them to stay safe. But they know that they can use those waterways to go all the way from the edge of the range all the way down to Veterans. And the last thing I'll say is the water. And thank you again. The 1,000 feet really makes me happy. The fence is the only way to keep the horses out, no matter what, the only way. But if there is not water, access to water, they're gonna smell it. They're gonna find a way to get through the fence. And they are smart enough to walk through it if it's loose at all. So I'm very pleased with what I've heard tonight so far.
Okay.
And it perhaps might, it gives me hope, which I have not had. And so thank you.
Well, Kelly, I'll just say, while you're sitting down, I guess, that, if you're interested in this project, look, no free lunch, it's a competition out there. If we're to get more money, there is only this, roughly $25 million in this pot that we're using for a wide variety of projects, from river, soccer fields, placemaking, etc. You're gonna need to show up to council to advocate. That's, I mean, I'm just being honest. If you want to see the project go forward, it's gonna be competing with all the other projects for any little dollars that are left from the other projects. They need to know this is more than a Naomi or a NAB2 project. This is a whole southeast community, Hidden Valley to Geiger Grade to Toll Road into the county. So people gotta show up. That's all there is to it. And I'll share with you what I think they're next gonna talk about these ARPA projects in the first meeting in March. So that would be a good time to plan. I'm sure there will be a conversation about what I've just told you. There's not enough money to go around for these projects.
Well, I remember a meeting, 4 meetings ago, I think we were talking about access to rescue vehicles, just up in the same
That's
area.
right.
Because they're building up above the football field at the Monty Ranch. I do a lot of football, and you can see it all up there. So we talk about these issues, but there are other groups, other committees talk about other issues, and somehow it all needs to be coordinated. And I would point out to you, there are development project review forms. I think those forms back here, and they can be filed. So if you've got comments to make or suggestions to make, it's great if you're gonna talk to us about it, we appreciate it very much. But that has to get up as far as it can go. And those forms are for the purpose of giving feedback to, for instance, the planning commission and that sort of thing.
Exactly.
So please, the forms are online, we can get the information for you. But please get that information filed to where it needs to go. So where it has to be considered, because that's what the forms are for, all right? Talk is great and we learn about it, but certain people are gonna have to make a decision. And if we can make those people better informed, they can make better decisions. All right.
I have a question for Naomi.
Yeah.
So when council talks about reducing, splitting up the ARPA fund, that's gonna be on an agenda,
Yes.
and then we'll have, will different groups come to them about it.
So what I see,
Or-
what's gonna happen next is that just as we are coming in for landing in terms of a design, a cost estimate, they are doing the same thing, for example, in the downtown placemaking. They have done a whole bunch of outreach, public outreach. This is a project that's on the lids that they want to put in shade. They want to put in facilities that would make it easier to do events there, gather there, hang out there, tables, all kind of stuff. Well, they have come up, I'm giving you the spoiler version. They have said, we need 2.6 million to do it, or we can do shade, but not seating, do seating and maybe, a table, but not have any shade. There's not enough money to cover what people want to do that when they did the public outreach. So here's what's going to happen. They will present, I think, in early March, also the river project. So they've been analyzing the whole river. They've come up with some really neat projects along the river, and I'll give you one example. If anyone's been behind the National Automobile Museum, anyone been there? If you've been behind it, which is where the river is, and there's a walkway, the whole bank is sloughing down. They've come up with an idea of having a, what do you call it? Basically a leveraged boardwalk, call it, but cantilevered.
Yeah.
Boardwalk behind the auto museum. So if you've ever been on some of these trails where they've, for example, in New England, New Hampshire, Vermont, there's places, the gorge, where they have boardwalks that go all the way up the gorge. It's cantilevered into the side of the hill. That's what this would be. And I think it would be an amazing attraction, especially for kids. I know how much I love these kind of walks when I was a kid, but it would make it safe. It would stop the erosion on the bank. They want to build it. We don't have the money to build it right now, but it would be an amazing addition of connectivity on this trail, river trail. So that is going to also be discussed, per my understanding, at the March meeting. So here's what's going to happen. There'll be public comment before, just like we did here. There'll be public comment on the item. Some of the public comment might be, well, I really like those projects and I really like other projects too. How are we going to pay for these extra things? And so the council will have to get in that discussion, and we'll have to hear public input about it. That's what's going to probably happen. Could get pushed to the second meeting in March, so stay tuned, but that's what I've been informed.
Is there anyone else in the room who'd like to give public comment on this item?
I'm one of the people, my name's Kevin Williams, I'm one of the people. I hauled 1,000 gallons of water into the horses at that same location. I was wondering, is there an actual date that fence might be completed?
That's a great question.
For the north face or the south face?
Because we feed them, or we water up there at the south end of the Hidden Valley.
So we want to get the north face done as quick as possible. I've got all the documents I need from City of Reno right now to get what's called the bid documents put together, which is what we put out on the street for contractors to bid on it. We've also been having conversations with them late last week and this week about purchasing the cattle guards now to keep inflation costs down, and we just get those in because we're not sure what the lead time is. I do know, an interesting little side note, I drove down to Phoenix to bring a car down to my vehicle, a car down to my daughter who's down there going to college, and they're going a massive widening project of a state highway in there. there was probably 30 precast cattle guards, all stacked up on the side of the road. So, the demand of these is going up. I think that whatever company came up with these is huge. So we want to get ours now before.
And you didn't take a pickup with you?
Yeah, exactly. Just start pulling it behind me along the whole way.
Because there is no access to the water from it's not like there's a 50-foot
Yeah,
area.
Can we go
I
back?
believe there is for
No.
the horses.
There is.
yeah. When I was the project manager for Veterans Parkway, it's right here. So this is the parcel line, there's a fence.
Oops,
There's
sorry.
a fence line that runs right here. We left that in place. In fact, I put a little modified floodway fence in there with it was PVC pipe.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's all they have is what fits under the letter.
Yeah, I don't know if the horses know about where it's at.
They do. We've watched them go there in a single line, one by one. It
Yeah.
is not,
Most of them are pretty territorial. They kind of
Yeah.
stick in the same
They do.
general area, but they are very smart.
That's how I knew they had water. I saw them.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, one thing,
Just for the minutes, could you identify yourself?
Kevin Williams.
Okay, thank you.
I think there was, did you have a
Another?
hand up, sir? Okay. Oh,
Naomi, how?
And again, just for
Yes,
the record.
yes. Audrey Keller,
Hey, it's my time.
and I thank you. Audrey Keller, my question is, there's gonna be a new Ward 6, and the map you were showing on the south side is included that DeMonte Ranch zone.
Yeah.
So will the new city, by the time that election comes, it's in November, will they get an allocation of funds eventually that might contribute to this project?
great question, Audrey. I am planning to have this done before Ward 6 exists.
Okay,
Okay?
all right.
And to get back to the timing thing, we want to push the north face as quick as possible, but ideally having both faces in before the next diversionary feeding season would be ideal. Now,
Yeah, so I'm planning by September to have to answer the full question. I don't know when this part will be done or that part, but the whole project should be done by September.
and I'll make a little pitch if I can for the south phase of that, because that's where the funding is lacking right now. And as I mentioned before, Nevada Department of Agriculture does have additional funds, and Vice Mayor Dewar mentioned that as well. One of the things that in my world of engineering, that when we're looking at what we're gonna do, we do what's called a cost benefit analysis. And you obviously want it to be over one. You want the cost of what you're doing, the benefit to be greater than the negative cost. So that you want to, anyways, I won't go into all the details on it, but one of the things I've learned with this project is you have the obvious negative impacts. You've lost a horse. You've damaged a car. And the secondary event costs of that are your insurance rates go up. There's a case, my daughters went to the Money Ranch High School. There was it was like a straight A honor roll student rushing to school in the morning because he had some early school activities that he was doing. It was dark. The horses don't wear reflective vests. They don't reflect lights. Hit a horse. Guess what he was bullied online about for weeks afterwards? That he was a horse killer. So there's all those benefits, or not benefits, all of those expenses. The other thing I learned that was very interesting that I didn't realize when we met with the Reno Police Chief, she shared with us that some of the, and I'm not sure if it's all of them or some of them, they've gone through specialized training on how to properly euthanize a horse, because you want to make sure you do it correctly. What she then shared was the emotional toll that they have, because they are taking the life of an animal that, while it wouldn't survive, it's currently living. And a lot of police officers are animal lovers. A lot of them own horses, ride horses. So there's the emotional toll of that. So what I would say is, if you think that this is something that should move forward, the Nevada Department of Agriculture can be a big champion in helping get this south phase done. We feel pretty good with the north phase. We've got the funding and the momentum for there. The south phase right now is what needs some assistance. So getting them to refocus south, miles and miles and miles south, to focus their energy up here would be really helpful for what we've got with this urban interface in the horses.
So they've got to hear from us too. I mean, they're a state agency too. They've got commitments to all the residents of the state. This is where the carnage is, and it's PTSD for the drivers as well. So they may not lose their life, but they are very impacted, injured mentally and physically often. So we've got to get Department of Agriculture down at Washoe Valley, where they're thinking of putting the money. There are no horse hits. pretty much zero, maybe one. And here we have now 10, now 20 this year, I think 12, I don't know, I've lost track. In just a single year, we had 25 over 3 years before this. So, you know, we're headed towards 50 horses being hit, and that's 50 cars being totaled, 50 families being impacted. There's kids in there. They're off a lot of these horses are younger, maybe foals. So they've just killed a baby horse. I mean, this is not something a family wants to go through, or a young driver, or an older driver, anybody. So, you
How
know,
would one advocate? with
we
that?
can write letters to the Department of Ag, we can write letters to the governor. And I'm on the process of doing that myself, in as polite a way as I can. I've already written an editorial, which I've not submitted. I'm trying to work at the ground level and get them to do the right thing.
Okay, so these funds have been allocated to the Department of Agriculture.
For horse fencing,
For horse fencing.
part of it was for a horse coordinator, which they hired, who's only on site till September also. Another reason to get this done by September.
For horse fencing.
What's that?
For horse fencing was how this money.
For horse fencing
Classified as for horse fencing, so now they want to put it at Washoe Valley.
in Washoe County.
Washoe-
Well, I mean, our county.
Washoe Valley area? did you say?
No, our county,
Washoe County. You mentioned something about.
not Carson City,
Got it.
not Lyon County.
But did you just say someplace where there are no horses?
There are horses, but there aren't horse impacts, like
Okay,
horses being
okay.
hit by cars.
All right.
It's still a problem. I mean, there's still horses on the road, horses mingling with domestic horses because there's a park down there that has domestic horse riding. So you have wild horses, domestic horse. I mean, I'm not saying it's not a challenge down there as well. It's just they don't have the level of carnage that we're experiencing.
So is there a particular part of the Department of?
Well, we can talk offline,
Agriculture?
but no, it's really just the head of the Department of Agriculture. They have then more people that work in different areas of this problem or issue.
Appropriate contact is.
I can help you with that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, other comments, other questions on this?
Seeing none in the room, is there anyone on Zoom who'd like to give public comment on this item? If you'd like to give public comment via Zoom, please use the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Mr. Chair, it looks like we might have one who would like to give public comment. Donna, you should be able to unmute yourself. Okay,
Yeah. Thank you. Donna Freebert, could you please take down the picture so I can see the people in the room? I have a
Yes.
screen loss, and if I can't see, I don't hear as well. Thank
And
you.
let's go, yeah, to gallery.
gallery. Can you see us okay, Donna?
Yes, thank you.
Please start by stating your name one more time for the record and you'll have 3
Donna
minutes.
Freebert, and I was just asking if you could take down the picture so I could see the people.
Oh, that was your comment?
That was my comment, but I totally support fencing, and if you want a fundraiser, I'll contribute $100.
Okay, we're well on our way to $1 million.
I'm not, no, honest, I will, but just.
I love it.
I
Thank
just
you,
want to
Donna.
head the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
Okay. Other comments, questions? Couple suggestions?
I don't see anyone else on Zoom.
Thank you. That was really helpful. That was a good presentation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Next thing I've got on the agenda is the Bella Vista Ranch phase,
Two,
amendment. If we've got, is somebody going to be
Yeah.
presenting on that?
right here.
Okay, great. Fantastic.
Good evening, everybody. For the record, my name is Andy Durling. I'm with Wood Rogers. We're representing the property owner for the Bella Vista Ranch Phase 2 area. Do I have a clicker or just?
Just let me know when you're ready to fix the slide. There is a laser pointer if you want. Yeah.
So the Bella Vista Ranch Phase 2 development is on, we just kind of got a little bit of a preview, thanks, Bart, on this. Located at the existing terminus of the Rio Wrangler, so that north terminus of Rio Wrangler, in the Demonte Ranch kind of area there. The terminus of Rio Wrangler is right at the south side of the Bella Vista Ranch Phase 2. This was all part of actually the larger Bella Vista Ranch, which actually encompassed what is now most of Taos Valley. And this Bella Vista 1 and Bella Vista 2 were originally approved in the early 2000s. Bella Vista 1 started construction. It's the Cyan development, as well as on the west side of Veterans Parkway, as well as the Bella Vista development, which is on the east side, that Toll Brothers community on the east side of Veterans Parkway there. So South Meadows Parkway and Veterans there, just to give you some wayfinding. Next slide, please. So a few things have changed since, in the last 20 years, since the original Bella Vista Ranch Phase 2 was originally approved. Obviously, Veterans Parkway has been constructed, a large portion of it was constructed with Phase 1 of Bella Vista, and then obviously the completion of it to the north from South Meadows all the way ultimately to Grange Street. The Taos Valley project was approved. It actually is breaking ground here next month on the area just to the north and kind of northeast of us up here. With that, they will include the extension of South Meadows Parkway across Steamboat Creek, and construction of a portion of Rio Wrangler. So basically the shared property line here with Taos Valley will have Rio Wrangler, and then also constructing it north. There are also some shared infrastructure improvements that have to be constructed between Taos Valley and Bella Vista. Most namely a large water line that wants to connect down to the existing water mains that are in Rio Wrangler. So Tumla actually wants to connect to water pressure zones there, and so there's a large water main that has to be constructed as part of that. Bella Vista 1 was constructed, it's essentially built out at this point. With that, they had the restoration of Steamboat Creek. They also had some wetland protection areas. So Bella Vista 1 and 2 were kind of all part of the same Army Corps permitting back in the early 2000s. And so when they relocated and kind of improved the Steamboat Creek corridor, they also identified this wetland area as a preserved area that should be just remain kind of untouched. This is fed by the Damani Ranch Pond down here, has an outlet, kind of an irrigation ditch that comes out and feeds ultimately that wetlands area before it dumps back into Steamboat Creek. There is also a flood storage basin that was constructed. There's a flood storage basin here, as well as one you can see off of Veterans here in the Steamboat Creek corridor that was part of the flood mitigation for Bella Vista 1 as well. Next slide, please. So our project request is a little bit of a change. Oh, one of them, the last slide, I couldn't see in the last bullet point. This was also adjacent to the old Sage Hill Gun Club. So back in the early 2000s, if you actually go back one slide, sorry.
It's okay.
The Sage Hill Gun Club is it's being decommissioned still, but it's essentially in this location. So at that time, with the operating gun club, there was the desire to not have residential adjacent to that. And so, next slide. What they had is in this Village C area was all commercially zoned. And so looking at it kind of big picture, not really the most ideal location for commercial land. It's not really at an intersection. Rio Wrangler, has some trips on it, but not that many trips to really justify commercial land there. And so what we're doing is moving some of those land uses around, most namely, that commercial from this large area, moving it up to the corner in this pink. We're reducing the acreage of that, and by virtue of that, we're reducing the overall potential square footage of commercial by about 61,000 square feet of commercial land, or commercial building area, sorry. We're slightly increasing the maximum total number of units by about 31 or 34 homes, potential homes. Modifying the land uses, design standards, we're updating the design and development standards to kind of more current City of Reno code. Obviously, a lot's changed in the last 20 years, as well as some of the street design standards as well, to be consistent with what's been approved in Taos Valley. So there's a cohesiveness between those two projects. Next slide. So this is giving you kind of an idea of what's changing. So there's no changes to the wetlands or flood storage areas. Those were constructed and kind of, the flood storage, the flood areas were constructed. They're currently maintained by the Cyan Drainage District. Those remain as is. The wetland area remains untouched. It was identified in that Army Corps permitting as remaining as kind of undisturbed wetland area. So that has already been carved out into its own parcel, and that will be dedicated to the Cyan Drainage District as well. And then the table here just kind of gives you an idea of on the left, kind of in the peach color, is the existing PUD, what the land uses are, and then on the right side in the blue is what we're proposing. So the old land use plan had kind of three villages, A, B, and C. Village C, as I mentioned, was the larger commercial area, and A and B were identified as residential. There was about 4.5 acre public park area that's kind of rings around the wetland area there. The wetlands and obviously right of way areas between South Meadows and Rio Rangler Parkway that would be constructed. So what we're going to is,
Sorry.
the density of the residential stayed the same. We didn't change that. We're just kind of changing some of the acreages. So that's the difference in the total number of residential units. But the big change was, the old plan had almost 179,000 square feet of potential commercial building area. That's being reduced down to a potential of 117,000. In reality, it could be even less than that. We're looking at this pink area as that potential for commercial. Really, it's going to be set at a minimum of 5 acres, which is kind of from this little line here up to South Meadows is what we're anticipating is, being kind of more logical commercial land kind of at the intersection of Rio Wrangler and South Meadows in close proximity to Veterans Parkway, which is just off here. So have a little bit more synergy for commercial land in that area. The rest of it could be, it could be either all commercial or a portion commercial with a little bit of maybe multifamily or some like townhomes, higher density type residential. And then the entire east side, now that the gun club is gone, makes sense, makes a lot more sense for residential. And so that is a mixed neighborhood, what we're calling it. So that's more contemplating, it could be some, kind of garden, multifamily, townhomes, or maybe some small lot, single family in that area. So the total dwelling units in the previous plan was maxed out at 575, and in the new plan, 609. So just a slight change in that. Again, that's kind of the maximum, that we can definitely come in under that, but we had to kind of set some thresholds in order to do our studies for most specifically like traffic. So we did update the traffic report with this. Obviously 20 years has gone by since the last traffic study, so we wanted to look at it with the current trip generation that's in the area. Also, what's occurred in the last kind of 5 years or so is there was a South Meadows transportation study that was done as a whole, kind of looking at all of the kind of South Meadows, Double Diamond, Demonte Ranch area, all the way over to South Virginia Street, and looked at that in the context as well. And so this takes into account that, looks at potential improvements. By and large, there's not a lot of improvements that happen with this project. Other than, completion of Rio Wrangler, making that connection to South Meadows helps, kind of in the regional, when you look back, kind of pull back a little bit and look at the greater kind of Demonte Ranch area, providing some additional connections here to get traffic, which, currently all of this down off the screen has to go to Steamboat in order to, get to the freeway, get to Veterans Parkway. Now we would have, an alternative route here to provide, kind of a better distribution of traffic in the area. So updating design standards is also a big thing here, as I mentioned previously. So just kind of modernizing the landscape, the uses, street standards, the fencing, the feral horse fencing, as was mentioned earlier, bringing that's now codified. So it's in Reno Municipal Code, so we're mimicking that. As well as some of the police and fire fees. This project back, 20 years ago had negotiated some alternative fees for police and fire service in the area. The city now has a citywide police fee, and the fire is really not necessary anymore because of the way the projects have built out and ultimately constructed the different fire stations and fire areas for this fire coverage area. So made some modifications to that. Next slide. So just overview, we, just kind of the crib sheet here, reduced the overall non-residential, the commercial building area from about 179,000 square feet down to 117. Again, that's the maximum, right? It can definitely be below that even more. The maximum residential units increased slightly to 609 units, modified those land uses, the design standards, street standards. And our next step, we're scheduled to tentatively be at the Planning Commission March 6th. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Madam Chris, do you have questions?
Okay, so you're a UD. when you, I see on your new map, you're adopting city zoning, suburban mixed use, instead of just saying, this is what we're gonna do.
Correct.
Suburban mixed use has a lot of variation and a lot of things you can do with suburban mixed use. So if you get that as the zoning, you're no longer tied to your number of houses in this one little yellow area that was your PUD, right?
Somewhat. We're trying to use common nomenclature, so that, going back, 15, 20 years, every PUD had different ways to say, this is our, medium density, and some would say this is high density, and they were all sort of different definitions. So what we've tried to do in our more modern PUDs is try to kind of mimic common nomenclature that would be familiar in other places in code.
Right.
And so we take that and then modify it further. So the permitted uses that are in the PUD are different than what's in standard city code. And so we modify it to lessen some of those, especially the suburban mixed use. There's industrial uses and things like that that are allowed in suburban mixed use. So we've written out those types of uses and left in more the, traditional higher density residential, multifamily type, could be like a 3-story apartments that you kind of, pretty common nowadays, or kind of more your traditional.
But I guess that's my point, is you're turning it into suburban mixed use zoning with a whole list of things that are allowed and a list of things that are not allowed from suburban mixed use. You can have a big list of suburban mixed use, but as a PUD, you have so much latitude in there. It's not really the PUD that tells the people around, this is what it's going to be with X many houses, 2 stories high, bunch of little bungalows, whatever. You have a whole range of things in there, so you're building in a whole lot of flexibility for yourselves, naturally, to be able to then, well, we're suburban mixed use. And these are all things that are in our list. So you'll never have to come back for zone change to increase density, for example, because, well, you're suburban mixed use, and that has what it has. So you could tell us right now that you're only gonna add 34 houses. Great, but your PUD is no longer restricting you to just this number of houses.
It is. No, in there, we have a maximum number of 609 total. In the entire PUD, you can do 609 total residential. So the benefit, obviously, you mentioned there's flexibility, obviously, for the development to have a PUD. There's also assurances for the public as well, because we can, standard city zoning code for suburban mixed use doesn't have a cap on the amount of residential you could do. But we have gone in and said, because we're doing a PUD, we are capping it at the 600. So there are protections and standards that can be in addition to what is.
So your 609 is based on the 30 units per acre.
Yes.
And many acres.
Yes,
So you maximize it, I mean, in that way.
sure.
Right, but I guess. Okay, I guess I'm just saying, you can do a lot of things in suburban mixed use and in mixed neighborhood that you couldn't do if it was residential zoning. So like in the original, if you had said, this is our residential at this density, you could do certain things.
Sure.
But now you have SMU, so you can do things a lot differently. You can stack differently, go to different heights.
Yep.
Cut back your parking because your city code, which is, I'm sure, part of the deal.
I think what's confusing is we're using city code names like suburban mixed use, but we are modifying them to be more restrictive in the PUD. So the building height is lower, the density is lower, there's a maximum number of units. So what you're saying is correct, but not in the case of this
I
project.
haven't seen your document, but in every other one, what they do is say, well, here's suburban mixed use, but we don't like these 50 things, but we're gonna take an option of these 15 things and leave these as choices for our SMU
Yes.
district.
Well, so example, the gold color here, is that all gonna be residential and it's not gonna change to?
This is all residential.
Yes, well, and so why don't you call it in your document residential?
It's mixed neighborhood, so we call it mixed neighborhood because it could be you could have smaller lot, single family detached, you could have townhomes, you could have garden apartments, you could have a wide variety of housing products, hence mixed neighborhood.
Right, but nobody knows what that would be, including the people that you're trying to be compatible with adjacent to.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, this is zoning. Our zoning is PUD, it's already PUD,
Understood.
right?
Understood, but
And so right now they can build 179,000 square feet of commercial right here.
Right,
And we're changing that to a mix of residential.
right, thank you. It's a nice thing, and I appreciate that 60,000 square feet of commercial has gone away, and then you're putting it on an actual street. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, but in suburban mixed use,
Is only the pink suburban mixed use? What
Yes.
color is the orange?
Orange is the mixed neighborhood.
Mixed
pink is the
neighborhood,
suburban
right.
mixed use.
And then I had a question about this while she's asking. You just said 30 units, so everything's essentially MF 30.
Yes, that's what it is currently. So in the current Developments of Ranch Phase 2 PUD, it's a maximum.
And are
30
they
units.
planning it to be all apartments?
Not necessarily.
Okay, the reason I'm asking this is a constant question I get from South Reno residents is, how come we have so many apartments? How come there's more apartments coming? You know, they wanted to see a mix. They're just shocked at that it's trended more to these apartments.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it could be, right?
but
I
you
mean,
don't
this
know.
is.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. With a PUD, generally you know.
Well, you generally nail it down,
Yeah.
right? But they're saying,
This is like, oh, well, now we're city
Yeah.
zoning, we're good at PUD, and these things we can do, so you could make it all apartments.
So to be clear, a PUD is zoning, right? It establishes the zoning that it does not establish a project. There's another process after this. So we would have to go through tentative maps or major site plan reviews, whatever the case may be. But yeah, this is the process, right? It's, in this case, PUDs are appropriate when you have, wetlands and flood mitigation areas and things like that to be able to do it.
Okay, I understand what you're saying and what I'm saying, and probably not being able to get across too well, because you don't have to come back to anybody and call it SMU as opposed to residential. Because you're going to have to get another zone change to do that, SMU, as you allowed list of uses, and as you just said to Naomi, yes, it could be all apartments, we don't know yet.
Yes, because this is the zoning action. This is not.
so maybe a
Right.
comment that would be appropriate to put in your comments.
Thank you. Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Uh-huh. So, Hal, is there more questions?
Does anyone else on the board have questions related to this item?
Are you done with the presentation?
Yes.
Oh, then I have a question.
Okay, perfect. Please start by stating your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
And while she's coming up, I actually had a question. Andy, you said you did away with the police and fire fees. Do you know how much those were supposed to be?
Oh, not off the top.
Can you find out and let me
Sure.
know?
Yeah.
Were they like 100,000? I mean, I'm looking for scale,
I don't remember.
Okay.
Perfectly, I don't.
Well, I'd like to know because those were fees they needed to pay, and I guess I'm wondering about just 4 acres of park. I mean, how many acres are total? In the whole product.
77, 78 acres. So because this was kind of part of Bella Vista 1 and Bella Vista 2, there was a broader planning that went on. So they contributed to Fire Station 12, I think, and maybe bought some equipment. I
Okay,
don't know all the details. They also, Cyan Park was part of
Right.
that dedication. And so there was a park agreement and other things that were in play. So
what's the
originally.
plan for this park?
Yeah, so it would be a small linear park. It's 4 acres, right? And it kind of is along the wetlands. There will be a trail along the east side of the Steamboat Creek corridor, kind of similar on the west side. There's an existing trail through Bella Vista 1.
Yeah.
And so there's some trails. It's a linear park. So I mean, it's going to be more passive type.
And then do
recreation.
you guys have to do anything for the yellow area to
The yellow area.
maintain its wetland status?
Yeah, so it'll be fenced to basically what you see on the other side. It's a.
Not a horse fence, right?
split
But
rail
a
fence. Yep, it's a
split rail. I mean, not a chain link, I mean, not a wire fence.
No, it's a split rail, really just to keep people out, so they're not traveling through the woods and dogs and things like that.
Okay. Yeah, identify yourself.
Tracy Wilson, for the record. I am a volunteer liaison with Wild Horse Connection and the Nevada State Director for American Wild Horse Campaign. I reviewed the PUD and I actually asked for the Federal Horse Protection Plan to specify that it was going to be Title 18 code, city code. I got a little bit of pushback on that it didn't apply because there was no ingress egress. But there is perimeter fencing and there are maintenance and repair requirements within that code that do apply, but I see that it has not been added. Do you know why?
We have added, we actually submitted revisions this weekend, today, it does include. So we were going through kind of our, you had provided those comments to us, the city had a bunch of comments and things like that. So as we were working through all of them, we included it. So it references Title
They're the
18.
new copy that I have not seen yet
Correct.
then.
Yeah.
Okay, because none of my emails were answered, so I just.
Good. Sharing of information is a good thing.
It is.
I have a follow-up question to that.
Sure.
So when this project came to, they wanted to do what, essentially what you just said, move the commercial up to South Meadows. And it was appealed, so it was approved at the planning commission.
Okay.
It was appealed and went to city council.
It was appealed or it went automatically to city council? I think it just went automatically.
So it went automatically, do you recall?
I'm sorry,
Bella Vista too, was it appealed or did it just go to city council?
it was not appealed, it was at city council and it was on a continuance at that time.
Well, it was in the night, that's why I'm not sure. You know, usually we don't do those things in the night.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, it was in front of us and I had met with the previous development group and previous advisors like you.
Yep.
And we had talked extensively about this area is the prime area where the horses are watering today. And there was a request from the Wild Horse Connection and others to put in 3-tire watering stations to mitigate for the loss, not just for horses, but all animals are using this area. This is the prime open water space for the entire Virginia range from Hidden Valley to Geiger Green. This is it. This is it. There isn't any more. Every other bit is fenced off, even a portion of this is fenced off. So at that time, myself, Tracy, and 2 others met for probably 4 or 5 meetings with the developers. And we almost got there, but then they started backsliding and said they didn't know. And what happened then at council was that, not me, but Oscar Delgado, I believe it was, made the motion for denial. And I think the mayor seconded it, maybe. And I think it was, if not a 7-0, close to a 7-0 vote to deny it. Because they did not address the horse watering needs. We still have these issues today. And I was wondering, you talked about now, just this weekend, you put in the wild horse, 8 conditions, I think it is. Right, fencing and a guard
Yeah, reference to
person.
what's in code.
Yeah, so at the time, we were putting in that code, actually, right at that very same time, and you were part of Daybreak,
Yep.
yeah, Talus Valley, and the same issues came up and went to appeal, I
I
mean,
think Tracy gave us the conditions.
right.
Got it.
So what I'm wondering is, have you proposed a mitigation plan for closing off this last section of water? For all animals, not just,
So. For water specifically? Or
Yeah,
what's-
because-
Or what's the horse mitigation, I guess?
well, you already mentioned the 8 conditions.
Yep.
But this whole thing will be fenced
Correct,
for all animals.
correct.
Okay, whether it's a mountain lion or a coyote or a horse or, right now today, all of those animals are getting their water here. There is no other place.
So. And Tracy can speak to this, but the fencing standard is a smooth wire
Right.
fence, right? So that keeps large mammals out.
Yeah.
Smaller, coyotes, things like that.
Yeah.
Deer, I see
Rabbit.
deer in there, rabbits, sure, absolutely can still move through. The fencing along the wetlands is a split rail fence as well, so it allows for, your smaller
Okay.
mammals. It would, the horses shouldn't be in the wetlands now,
Right,
based on the permit with the Army.
right,
Corps.
but they have been for 20 years, I mean, since 2000.
I don't know the dates, but yeah, sure,
I mean, since Bella Vista
For a
was
while.
approved.
yep, for a while.
So my question again is, we have a natural resource issue. If you want to just isolate it to the horses, saying every other animal can get in. But I think they might get run over by a vehicle on the extension of Rio Wrangler Parkway.
I mean, that exists everywhere. but-
Right, but I mean, there's now be a regular road between animals and this water. Right?
Sure.
Okay, that didn't exist before. So my question is still, have you discussed with the Wild Horse Connection or any other wildlife group about how to mitigate this issue?
The water, no, not necessarily. We've discussed diversionary feeding
Okay,
with them.
what I don't want to happen to you is what happened to them.
Okay.
I don't want you to get up there at council and have a denial because the same issue exists. Nothing's
Are you
changed.
saying we're gonna have?
No, I don't want you to, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I'm suggesting that you might want to think it through and, think about how to address it. We almost had a workable plan.
Well, and I think what's changed too, that was in 2020?
Probably around
So it's, 4
20
years ago or so, and
2019, it was before
I think it's
COVID.
2020, and
It
you
was
guys,
before COVID.
Wild Horse Connection has advanced what we just heard about, right? This fencing
Right.
plan that's going to now create a water
Right.
source north of here, which is a safer location.
Right,
I mean, ultimately, that watering source is gonna be cut off. So I don't know.
well, we can talk offline. It's still a concern for me. I'm still in council. We still have to vote for this, and I want some reassurances. I've had to push hard to get this one up north adopted, and we still don't have all the money to do the fencing plan, right? And so, here we are. We're not quite there. So there's some, to finish this all off, we've got to take some more steps to get there. So
Okay.
I look forward to talking to you, maybe next week.
Sure.
Can I ask a question? And so.
Please
I
state
know
your
where
name
the-
for the record. I'm so
Oh, my
sorry.
name's Kelly Heidi, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
So where the pink area is, I know where that is, I know where the road goes on there. So how, are you gonna fence off that wetland area and the pink area and all that stuff by the gun club right now, like right now?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, so
That-
construction is commencing, because of Talus Valley. They're gonna start construction on this their the residential development just to the north here. That starts now, or not now, in the very near future. And so that includes the construction of Rio Wrangler, so to here. And then also includes a construction of a water line. So and this is going to be the primary construction access for all of that.
And that's the Rio Wrangler gate,
Correct.
so see right there. No horses are gonna be able to get to water and they will all be dispersed right there, there's no other water for them at all, none.
And even today, I mean, we're not gonna begin our project. I don't know where Garth went if he left, but the point being, let's call it the summer, he told me is when we can construct that part. So there's at least an interim problem at March, April, May, June, July. There's a longer term problem. So I really think we gotta fix this before we have a crisis.
Okay.
And I have been working, I mean, I'm the one who got the money, I'm the one who came up with the plan to move the fence and so on. I'm trying to do my part.
Yeah, no.
And I need help to make this all work.
Other comments, other questions on this subject?
Mr. Chair, we do have one more. Please state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
Dina Kirk, American Wild
Can
Horse
you come up
Connection.
to, I mean,
Yes. I'm also with Wild Horse Connection. What are your plans, since you're getting ready to start work already, to getting the horses out? Are you gonna build the fence around the horses and leave them in while you're working?
So I think, and I'll defer to you guys because you're the experts here, but I think what happened previously, we thought Talus Valley was gonna construct quicker. They put in the horse fencing, and I think contacted you guys to come and help move those horses out. I think we would hope to have that similar situation.
I think communication needs to be reopened for that.
We aren't getting, at this point, very much communication. We would love to assist you guys. We would need your plan on where you're putting in these fencing in order, I mean, not the permit, but just the current construction fencing. In order, this is not something we can just come in 5 minutes and be like, oh, let's get these guys out. We need to develop large plans for this, and we can't do that without some type of information being exchanged. Although, this is quite a large task. So we're gonna need permission to be on the property. All of those things they're all gonna start with communication, and we're struggling with that at this point.
Okay, and I know I've been involved in, I mean, I'm aware of it. I've not been sort of the point person, but I will definitely pass that along to the appropriate people. And I know we met a month ago or so, right? So definitely understand, you guys are looking for some diversionary feeding from the same property owner elsewhere. And so they're just trying to still kind of get their heads around that. And
It's gonna be over by the time they get, I mean, they were ready to sign, so I don't know what the problem is, but I will say. Wild Horse Connection is not gonna go in there and move horses unless there's permission to be on the property signed, and they have not signed that yet. So
It's been
pass that
weeks.
message on.
well, it's been months.
Yeah.
I mean, that we met on December 20th and now we're at February 20th.
sure, well, it's a big,
we're not a, diversionary feeding is done in 40 days.
But there's gotta be water.
So it's gonna, this removal of the horses in here, figuring out where the fencing is going to be, all of this. We're missing our window at this point, and now it's going to be working backwards, unfortunately. So we need to get some kind of information exchange and open communication happening that is not happening at this point in order to prevent major issues with here.
I will pass it on.
Is there anyone else in the room who'd like to give public comment on this item?
Question? When do you expect to go to planning commission with this?
March 6th.
Seeing no more public comments in the room, is there anyone on Zoom who'd like to give public comment on this item? If you'd like to give public comment by Zoom, please use the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom window.
Any public comments at this point?
Can you screenshot or something, all these people that are on? Yeah.
It doesn't look like we have any public commenters on this item, Mr. Chair.
All right, so no public comments? Is that what?
Yeah, so what you want to do is you want to take 5 minutes, maybe, or more, and everyone in the room can do this, everyone on the NAB. You can write comments, concerns, suggestions, and these will all be passed on to the planning commission and put into the report as an attachment for the planning commissioners to gel on. They don't have to be submitted now in 5 minutes. I think the way the NAB's been working, you want to explain it.
Yeah, so you can either fill out one of these forms here today, and they all get passed along to the planning commission and our planning department. And then on our agenda, we have a link written out to the project review form, so you can go in and fill it out and give a little bit more comments in depth and take some time if you don't want to fill it out now. And I'll just read the link just because it's pretty short. It's https://bit.ly/public-comment. And for anyone in the room, there's copies of the agenda up at the front and the comments in there. It's under item 3. It's the blue link.
Information's under 3 development.
Yes, it's under item 3. Yeah.
We certainly encourage it. Okay, so.
I think we're ready to move on to the next item, Mr. Chair.
I think it's a good idea, people fill these out before they leave the room.
It's always good, but they also, some people type them up the next day and some.
Whatever, I'm saying, should we wrap up the meeting and then if people want to stay here.
That's fine.
For a little bit, you know, that would certainly, I think it'd be
That's fine.
great, good idea. Any board, commission, committee member reports, announcements?
You want me to do charter committee?
What's that?
Charter committee?
Okay, just as a reminder, this is
That.
Yes.
Thank you.
Member Shin for the record. I am Ward 2's representative on the City of Reno Charter Committee. We've now had 2 meetings. The first one was just establishing, the cadence of our meetings, which we have decided they will be, once a month for now, unless further needed. And we meet the first Monday of the month at 5:30 p.m. We also have an open public comment period in the beginning and at the end of our meeting. So if folks have input as to what they would like to see in the City of Reno Charter changes, we are open to hearing those. At this last meeting, we had more of a deep discussion of what happened with the bill that went to the legislature last session that the Charter Committee had proposed. I don't need to go deep in depth about that, but the short of the long, and as someone that was working in Carson City and witnessed this, it was more that there was a lot of opposition to the reversal. There was a proposal to reverse the 6th ward and go back to 5 wards and the at-large seat. And there was a lot of opposition at the state legislature against that. So that is really the short of the long as to why the last bill with the City of Reno Charter changes died. So that was the most of the discussion at our last meeting. Obviously, we're going into 6 wards. But some of that, I think folks have brought up again, like there was some, removal of gendered language throughout the, charter, which I think folks are interested in bringing back. So the other pieces of that bill did die, as a result. And so, yeah, we just had a discussion of maybe having a different strategy this time around, that if we have, let's say, 5 provisions that we're proposing within the bill that we recommend to the city council, and the, the city's the legislative affairs, the chair, that give him some guidance moving forward, that in the future, we don't have to necessarily lose an entire bill, that we could maybe recommend that, hey, we're willing to give up these provisions instead of losing the entire piece of legislation. So we had a little bit of a strategy conversation around that. And then moving forward, the next, I think, 5 meetings, we're gonna go chapter by chapter of the city's charter and learn. I myself am new to that committee, and there were several of us that like, let's just go through each chapter and understand before we start making recommendations of changes. So we're early in the process, and so I'm happy to meet with folks, and then also you're also welcome to come do the public comment at the charter committee meetings.
If I may comment, in this kind of process, oftentimes the best part of the process is finding out what different groups actually agree on. You know, because you have a tendency, there are all these problems and everything. A lot of times they aren't problems. There are specific problems, but a lot of things everybody's really meeting together on. And that can be a positive way to build up positive momentum in terms of how we address what various groups really are the problems. So I think it's a good idea when you involve as many people as you can who have an interest in that. So that's.
Oh, the one piece I did forget, one of the assignments for those of us that were appointed by a city council member, it was to meet with our council member and report back their recommendations to charter changes. So our councilwoman is now not in the room, but so I had a meeting with Councilmember Dewar and brought back some of her ideas, and it was interesting because several of our council members had similar recommendations. So like looking at, we're the only city with an elected city attorney. Elsewhere they appoint them, and we had Nick Ciccone, how you pronounce the thing. He's the government affairs liaison for the city, and we can give him assignments. So we had him look into that, and yeah, we're the only city that does the election process for our attorney. So that's like one thing that was up for discussion. The other one that came up was if someone in a primary in other municipalities in Nevada get more than 50%, so 50% plus 1, they win the election after the primary. They don't have to go on and compete in the general election. But the city of Reno doesn't. It goes as the top 2 winners will go on the general election. So even if you carry the majority of the votes in the primary election, you still have to go. And so that was another presentation that we had.
Yeah, we've actually discussed that in the past. So,
Still talking about it.
Yeah. No, it's we live in a time when election nuances become very, very important.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, Stacy, thanks. I appreciate that. Any other?
We got a question.
These 2 things to me doesn't seem like that big a deal, considering the constant ongoing conversation about whether or not we're Dillon's Law and whether or not the city has the authority to do certain things. Like I would tend to say, well, why don't we just go get the charter changed and see if we can't just get the right to regulate short-term rentals, whatever, and use up, forget what exactly, but there's like big issues that tie into the housing and, rent control, I guess that's, so we don't have, so like these caps that Naomi's talking about putting on. But
limits that senior affordable will go up.
People get in trouble. I mean, to me, it seems like
So they,
So I write those comments down and submit them to the committee and see if anybody cares.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious about that, but I have a question on that because I don't know if that will go into the charter, but the city of Reno does have 2 bill draft requests. So
Yeah.
if there was something like rent
It's that
control that could
authority
be done
thing that,
legislatively.
So you
Yeah,
said,
I
what,
don't-
just so I could catch up, what were the two?
Oh, I just did a report.
Yeah, but what were the 2 things that she's referencing that you were talking about potential
Oh,
changes?
that came up,
Yeah,
two of your recommendations actually also came from several other
oh, good.
members at the last meeting.
Okay.
But the 50% plus one during the primary.
It's
and then-
supported generally, or
Well,
Gonna
we're not
talk about
doing any support, we're just gathering.
gonna
ideas.
talk about it? Okay,
Yeah, and then, this was reporting back from our council.
I understand. And then what was the other?
And then the other was the election of the city attorney.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, as far as,
I was just thinking in terms of changing the city charter and working.
Well, short-term rentals and ADUs are not in the charter.
No, I understand.
Okay.
But there's that kind of conversation that goes around. Like Jenny says, no, we can do these things and then.
Oh, getting the authority over
Yes.
rentals.
So give
And
yourself the authority and part of the charter, because
That's
it's
interesting.
legislative. So then that obvious, that entire discussion's been going on for 5 years and all. the
That's
top
interesting.
meetings. And I think that would be like something for the people, for the city. Instead of having the chronic.
Bonnie, you should get with Stacy. She knows a lot about it offline.
Yeah,
She
we
was
can also-
participated last year or in the legislative session, and I guess you guys debated this quite a bit, or, you heard them debate it.
The authority thing.
no, just why the last charter bill died, but.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't mean that. I meant about housing.
Oh, yeah, we always debate it.
That's what I mean. But it would be good to get Donna caught up since you're a lobbyist down there, or have been.
I'm just thinking it's a charter change that could actually give authority to.
I think we would just want to run a separate bill, but yeah, let's talk about that offline, because we can approach sponsors, and it doesn't even have to have.
Yeah, anything to do with the,
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, is like, because there are things like that that I find chronically annoying. It's been going on for 5 years, the same discussion at council about why you can't do something about something.
The state has a lot of.
I know, so why don't we think about, maybe we could change the charter and give ourselves the authority, because lots of cities have their own authority to do it, there's plenty of justification for it, and then that might
I think we
facilitate.
just changed I think we would change statute, right? Not charter.
well, it should apply more broadly than just the city of Reno. That's the
It
difference.
should, but that's a bigger problem.
Well,
I'm just saying, that would be Stacy to council me on shout out, because they won't do it statewide, perhaps, but the charter change, you're just asking to get your own permission.
Are there any other updates from board members on this item?
Can you put it in?
Right. Any more comments by, board
You
members?
put it in the charter.
Okay. Seeing no other board member updates, I think we're ready to move to item 5, future agenda items. Are there any future agenda items from the board members?
well, let me ask, I'm glad I brought these 2 agenda items, the horse fence and the trail.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what's going on?
Yes.
So think about, even if you don't think of it today, there might be something else you'd like that level of deeper dive, a 10 or 20-minute discussion on a subject, and we could have a speaker on that.
Well, and again, it's what I mentioned before. Sometimes you just go, "Oh, it's this bit, this, but
Yeah.
if we put more things on the agenda and get the background,
Right,
then in our own minds, we can start putting together
right.
and we can be more helpful.
More
I
effective.
have one.
Yeah, exactly. All right,
I have one.
go.
I'd like, somebody to come and explain in detail to me, where.
Or us.
Us, well, yes, thank you, I'm sorry I said that, but yes to us. How come we're seeing so few walkability, interconnected parks, trails, blah, 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 with every new development because of, there's something to change. I mean, in code, because the developers are allowed to just give money to the city instead of building things, and so how's that working out for us? I'd like to know that, because that affects every single development that goes anywhere.
Well, I think the interesting thing would be, the Parks Department just got the Parks pros plan, Parks Recreation Open Space Plan. And then maybe you're talking about what's the next step for implementation. Maybe that's a different way to say it. How's that gonna get folded into the development aspect.
You know, it's not really what I wanted to know. but
It's not?
It's a much more political way or to get to.
Well, I thought it was what you were trying to get
No, I'm
to.
not saying that you were doing that. I just mean it makes sense to phrase it that way because probably my answer will come out, but. No, I mean specifically when people are required to do a development with X amount of little pocket parks or whatever, and their walkability, human scale, let's have a room to gather, I mean, outdoor space to gather, that doesn't seem to be getting built.
Well, what I'm saying, Donna, is we just had this plan approved. And so it's part of the master plan too. So what I'm asking is how are they gonna take the next step and actually require what is in the pros plan and in the master plan in these developments? And that's a conversation with planning and parks together, I think. I think that's what you're saying, not why haven't they? What is their plan going forward? Because now we actually have a requirement to, you know, or a framework to do it, a directive to do it, really.
Well, okay, maybe I'm not being clear or misunderstanding you. Title 18 requires certain things.
Yeah,
For the development, but Title 18 also says you can just give us money instead.
are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I don't know that.
I'll look it up. to
Okay.
that, Because I.
Let me suggest, given the point where we're at the
We're just
meeting.
setting the
I could
agenda.
Talk a
Yeah.
little bit, and then there may be something that you can bring here that would
Exactly.
be useful for
I think
those
so.
in the NAB
Yeah,
context.
context, yeah.
Okay, all right, good.
I have a question.
Some of the questions are done. Okay.
Where do we discuss, like, where do we do follow-up of previous presentations, right? Like, I'm curious about that big casino that was gonna bring us jobs that all were gonna be in the six figures and then
That's
just
a lot.
sitting there, right?
Well, this is a great comment. We have had this before at the NAB, where we've had projects that have gotten approved and we've had a status report. We could reschedule it. I like the idea.
I'm curious about that, because they really made it seem glorious, and
Right.
every time you drive by that now, it's just,
I think it's changed hands, actually.
okay. And then like, there was, I got this in the mail, I'm like.
What is that?
What is this, and it's an antenna. Like, I don't know what it is, like.
It looks like a development.
What?
It's like a development card that gets sent out.
But is that coming to
Suppose you're getting an in.
NAB?
That was a NAB too, and I don't think we've discussed it, so those are just what I'm
It might be
wondering,
coming.
those you.
Sure, no,
Okay.
I think it's a good point. It's a good point to see what happens with projects. And we get this big, presentation, but where does it go? I think it's, no, we don't necessarily want to do that on everything that comes here.
Right.
But something like, casino on that particular piece of land. The use of that particular piece of land, whether it's a casino or something else, is in fact going to be important.
Right.
Yeah. So, so some follow-up there is a good idea. And again, for NAB members, if there are particular projects that pique your interest, then you might talk to Tyler about, well, can we do some follow-up on that, or can you find out about it? We've got somebody here who can get some access on it.
So we
And
picked
just-
Tyler.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Email me,
No,
don't
and
CC anyone.
That's what I do.
Okay, just you.
That's what I do. Part of what we can do, the NAB is not, the NAB to some degree should be an evolutionary process.
Correct.
We should find better ways perhaps to address certain issues which come up. We don't have to be locked into the same ways we've done them forever. So we can, we can evolve
You
as.
could even initiate a code change.
Yeah, exactly. All right, any other committee, or any other big assignments for Tyler? No. Any other committee comments at this point or questions? Agenda items we've covered.
Final public comment?
Mhm.
Is that more public comment?
Yes, okay, so if there are any more public comments, this will be your last chance.
For today,
Well, we welcome them. Okay.
seeing no public comments in the room, if anyone would like to give public comment by Zoom,
Thank you for doing that.
please use the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom window to indicate that you'd like to give comments.
Are we ready for?
Mr. Chair, we have no Zoom comments and we're ready for the next item.
I'm sorry, no comments?
No comments.
No comments. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Don't be shy.
I can make an emotion.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Good, well, good meeting.
Great meeting, everyone.
Meeting
Thank
is
you.
adjourned at 8:01 PM.
Because I didn't